Queensland's unemployment success. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.heise here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Still with my good coffee in hand, and I thought we'd have a look at this article from news.com.au, looking at, well, our employment success, or unemployment success here in Queensland. Now, the unemployment rate has climbed 7.4%. The combined unemployment and underemployment rate, known as the underutilization rate, according to Roy Morgan, is sitting at 24.5% of the workforce. That's the figure I tend to lean towards because, frankly, it paints a grimmer picture and I think a little bit more realistic picture of where we're sitting at the moment. But apparently, we're doing better than the other states. So let's have a look at this article written by Jason Murphy. So, Queensland's unemployment rate drops while Australia's surges. So, they've smashed the pandemic numbers and they're also winning at keeping unemployment at bay. How is this state doing it? Let's have a look. Boy, do I wish I was in Queensland right now. For the sunshine? Sorry, mate, it's pretty cold at the moment. I've been having lots of warm coffees. It's freezing right now. For the lack of pandemic cases, for access to my loved game of Australian rules footy, but also because Queensland seems to be managing its way through this recession really well. Well, the recession hasn't even started yet. This is the problem. We're not going to feel the recession. This is what I'm concerned with, what we're seeing more and more about, managing our way through the recession. We're not going to feel the recession until the support mechanisms are removed, until the government interventions are removed, until the market is allowed to adjust. And this is the thing. People think recessions are bad. Recessions are often necessary. It's like in nature. The big dead tree sometimes has to die and new things need to grow up. You can't just keep it on life support forever. You can't just prop it up forever. Sometimes you need to clear it so new growth can emerge. That's the same as a recession. Creative destruction in the economy, guys. It happens. It's tough. It's a part of life. We used to be a resilient people. People used to not live paycheck to paycheck. But, a fantastic education system, just the way that the world is at the moment, it seems to be that people don't even have anything stashed aside. The idea of the state not intervening and saving you when times get tough, if you even suggest that, you're a boogeyman. So new ABS labour force data shows that Australia's unemployment situation worsened in June as the pandemic continued. The national unemployment rate rose from 7.1% to 7.4%, with different results in different states. South Australia now has the nation's worst unemployment rate, rising from 7.9% to 8.8%. But one state went the other way, as the next graph shows. Queensland was the only state to record an improvement in the unemployment rate between May and June. Amid economic mayhem, the Sunshine State employment rate dropped from 7.8% to 7.1%. But here's the thing. Is that just because you've got less people looking for work? Have people stepped out of the workforce? Have they given up? They're saying, there's no point looking now. I'm getting my job keeper. I'll sit at home, or I'm getting the job seeker plus. I don't need to look. Northern Territory also improved, but its unemployment statistics are volatile, and it was omitted from the graph. So the unemployment rate in June, and there you go. How did they do it? Approximately 53,000 Queenslanders moved into jobs in the month of June, seasonally adjusted. This compares very favourably with the 29,000 jobs added in Victoria, although not as much as the 81,000 added in New South Wales, a state with a much higher population. That Queensland's economy did relatively well in June is related to their success in holding the virus at bay. The state recorded just 15 cases in the month, and it was sealed off rightly from the rest of the country up until Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk loosened restrictions at the tail end of June. We're sealed off, but people could cross the border for a lot of reasons, guys. A lot of reasons. And, I'm not worried now when I'm going out, working, talking to people. You see a few people with masks. Most people don't have them. They're just going about their normal business. In Queensland, in June, the number of full-time workers fell slightly, and the number of part-time workers rose a lot. A similar pattern was seen in much of the country, as the next graph shows. So there we go, full-time workers versus part-time. So You're getting part-timers putting on. That's not what you want. That results in underemployment. That's why unemployment, is going down in Queensland. Fantastic, but underemployment could be going up. That's another concern. Another concern. It is not ideal to see a big rise in part-time work, but underemployment in Queensland remains relatively controlled at 1.2%, below the rate in New South Wales of it's controlled at 11.2%, below the rate in New South Wales at 11.3% and Victoria at 12.8%. If we can add more full-time workers, that unemployment rate will fall, and we'll have to see. And you've got to remember, guys, there's multiple methods of measuring employment, multiple approaches. I like the Roy Morgan statistic, their methodology. I don't consider 1 hour of work within a period as, well, it should be meaningfully employed. That should be it. But you can see here they are saying our underemployment rate on a nation is 10% and unemployment at 14.5%. Participation. As we all know, the unemployment rate only counts people as unemployed if they are not working and looking for a job. You have to be looking for a job to be counted as participating in the labour force. Participation fell sharply in April and May as people dropped out of the labour force altogether. But in June, participation came back. That's why the national unemployment rate went higher. People are getting counted again because they are looking for work. And that shows you why maybe we need to have more inclusive measures. We need to be shown a range of statistics, I think. But, this is just like auction clearance rates. They'll only show you one number. They'll focus on one number because it's easy. They can give it in the soundbite. Boom, boom, boom. The politicians can go, unemployment is down. We're doing fantastic. In most of the country, the lift in jobs was not big enough to match the rise in labour force participation. So the unemployment rate went up. Queensland was different. The lift in jobs was big enough, and even a large rise in the participation rate from 61.6% to 62.9% could not stop unemployment from falling. Just that tiny amount. The data above is all about June, and July is likely to see Queensland streak further ahead of the other two East Coast states, which are battling the pandemic outbreaks that are crippling Sydney and Melbourne, partly because the Australian Football League is propping up its economy by sending hundreds of footballers and their families to Queensland for the next few months. It's not quite beautiful one day, perfect the next, but Queensland is doing a lot of things right so far for this pandemic. This Melburnian is envious. What, you don't want more lockdowns in Melbourne? You don't want more social housing welded shut? I know they didn't weld it shut here in Australia, but you know what I mean. So there we have it. Some insight into the unemployment rate. Why Queensland is doing just that little bit better. A little bit better. But we're sitting at a high unemployment rate. We're just at the beginning of this recession. And I think he's being a bit facetious there with AFL making a significant impact to the economy here in Queensland. It's going to be interesting to see where they're going to play. I'm sure they could do it at Suncorp. They could do it down the Gold Coast. Do the Gold Coast have an AFL team anymore? Do they have an AFL team anymore? And they're not called the Bears anymore, are they? I'm a bit out of date. Collingwood forever, everyone. Yeah, Collingwood. So, let's jump back and have a look at, just to finish up, we'll look at some of the Roy Morgan data. And you've got here, we've got the comparison. Roy Morgan versus ABS. And this is from 92 to 2020. And often, this is the unemployment, workforce unemployment. And you've got here the Roy Morgan and the ABS here. So 12.2 and 10.9 back in 93. We scroll all the way down. So this would be just the tail end, actually, of that recession that we had to have. There you go. What's the peak here? And they were pretty similar numbers. But then all of a sudden, the unemployment numbers from ABS start to diverge more. Where we're sitting here, 10%, they're sitting at 6.9%. 10%, 7%. If we further down we go. And I recommend you have a look at this, everyone. Go right down to here. We can see now it's 14.5 to 7.4. Last month, May, was 14.8 to 7.1. Just interesting to see the divergence. People tell you the rule of thumb is just to double it. Just to double the ABS unemployment rate, and you'll get a more accurate figure. What do you think, everyone? Are you a fellow Queenslander? How are you feeling the state of the economy right now? Depending on who I talk to, some people are busy. Some are actually looking at taking more people on. Others are busy now, but the pipeline's getting a bit quiet. We'll have to see, everyone. Thank you all for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and want to support the content I create here, there are a few ways you can. You can join us on YouTube or Patreon. You can support us using our affiliate links at Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve, or Kucoin. You can buy a merch from HeiseSays, use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint, or support us via PayPal. Thanks, everyone, and I'll see you next time.